Just before the episode gets underway, I want to take the chance to ask you to support Reimagining Cyber by following or subscribing to the podcast. Also, if you can, why not leave us a rating and a review? It really helps other cybersecurity-minded folk find us. So, follow, subscribe, rate and review. Now on with the show. Hello and welcome to Reimagining Cyber. My name's Ben, and today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest supply chain attacks we have seen this year, and it hits especially close to developers, the NPM ecosystem. Tyler Moffat is with me, OpenText's Senior Security Analyst. Tyler, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So then, let's start at the top. What exactly happened here?
Yeah, so this one's definitely a wake-up call. The attackers compromised several of the most widely used NPM packages. So if you don't know, or if you haven't heard of these, Chalk, Debug, ANSI styles, Simple Swizzle, and other related dependencies, right? Combined, those packages are like billions of downloads per week. They power everything from like basic developer utilities to web applications. And what's crazy is the attackers didn't even need to attack the systems directly. They basically just phished like one of the head maintainers, NPM credentials, gaining publishing access. And so then basically just released an update to the packages that everyone would download that's malicious. So all it takes is essentially, if you think about it, one compromised maintainer, and suddenly the entire world is pulling and automatically updating poisoned code.
There may be a few people out there scratching their head when you use the term NPM. I guess, what is it? Why does it matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. Totally should double click into that. NPM is like the app store for JavaScript packages. So anytime a dev wants to add a feature, like sometimes it's as simple as just colorizing a console, right? Or formatting logs. Instead of writing from scratch, they pull an NPM package. It's convenient, it's fast, community driven. But that convenience, as we're now seeing, comes with risk, right? Many packages have like just one or two maintainers. Really no big team whatsoever, like hardly any security, no audits. And so when a maintainer gets compromised, this ripple effect is enormous, like massive. It's like tainting the water supply. Everyone who takes a drink is impacted, even if the glasses look clean.
So then once the attackers had access, what did they actually do?
So basically they injected malicious code into those NPM packages. And it wasn't just like, noisy malware that would be obvious as soon as you got it. It was sort of silent, surgical, financially motivated. And its purpose was to run in browser environments, and it was designed specifically, and this is very popular, especially now because we're in a bull run, I'm talking crypto, but intercept cryptocurrency transactions from popular like hot wallets that are like extensions in the browser. You probably heard of MetaMask or Phantom, a whole bunch of different types of wallets out there that all use extensions in the browser. They're dependent on this, right? And what it does is it silently redirects the payments to an attacker controlled address. And it works across multiple blockchains, so Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, Tron, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash. I mean, I could keep going with all the different types of wallets and the types of cryptocurrencies they support, and the ecosystems and the layers that they run on, the meme coins, you name it, they all run off these big layer ones. Even your layer twos, if I didn't mention those, they run off the layer ones, which I just mentioned. And it's if you're wondering how do they redirect payments to an attacker controlled address, essentially, when you're sending a transaction or committing a trade or whatever you're doing, if you were to paste in an address where you're sending, what it would do is send it to an attacker controlled address, but it would make an address or new address that would be very similar to the one you pasted, because it's not hard. Obviously, you can make hundreds of millions of different types of unique, maybe billions of different addresses, and so they can make a new address that's somewhat close to the address that you pasted. And because it's somewhat close and no one's checking every single character in the address that they're pasting, maybe like the first three, the last three, whatever, that might get through your sort of filter and check. And so that's how they do it. This is not new. This is definitely a tactic that's been used since I first was getting into crypto in like 2017. That's been around for a long time. But basically, yeah, if you had one of these poison dependencies in a fintech or crypto app, then a user might think that they're sending money to their friend, but it's being siphoned into a criminal's wallet, right? And so it's next level supply chain compromise.
Wow. So they're not mucking about here stealing secrets. That's not their game. They're going straight for people's wallets, straight for the money.
Well, right. I mean, you go after crypto, and as stealthy as this is, you can't reverse it. There's no central entity you can go to. You can't get a refund. They can't stop it in mid-transaction or do a fraud dispute like your credit card. It's done. It's over. It's been sent. There's nobody central entity you can go to. There's no even the CEO of a system. Even obviously Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO, but any of these other developers or head people for other layer ones out there, there's nothing you can do to reverse a transaction like that, really, right? And so a utility like Chalk just adds colors to console text, one of the things that was compromised, right? And it's something no one would ever expect to become a financial threat vector. It's kind of brilliant, but in a criminal way, brilliant from the sense of danger and supply chain implications.
Okay, let's break down the impact here. Who needs to be most concerned?
First off, developers and SaaS providers, like if you're pulling NPM dependencies into builds, thankfully our products are not, but you could have shipped compromised versions, right? Then from there, MSP and integrators hosting services that rely on Node.js, those libraries are at risk, right? And the biggest one for sure is fintech and crypto acts, right? This is the biggest target by far because the payload literally is designed to hijack and change the address that you paste into the wallet of the attackers, right? So you send the money to them. So that's definitely the biggest target. And then some lower risk here would be like small to medium sized business users if you build directly or maintain Node.js apps. So while not everybody's in panic mode, anyone building apps running on SaaS or Node.js needs to take this serious.
Okay, then let's imagine I'm a developer or a security lead and I'm listening to this. What should my checklist be?
Yeah, great question, especially for the listeners. So I'd say number one, audit your dependencies. Okay. Check for chalk, debug, ANSI styles, simple swizzle, all those things that were compromised, right? And you can look this up. It's widely known. I mean, this was the biggest supply chain attack this year. There's tons of information out there on it. Roll back to safe versions, right? Reverse to the known good releases immediately. Next would be rotate your secrets. Assume environments that pulled malicious versions are already compromised. Even if you have no reason to believe they are, assume that they are, right? That's the security posture you want to have. And next is lock your dependencies. Use lock files or pin versions so you're not blindly auto pulling in new packages. I think this is what woke up a lot of people is like, they're like, oh my God, I just automatically pull those whenever there's an update and you not know. And then use SBOMs. So that would be like software bill of materials. It's really, really important. Essentially, think of that as like an ingredient list of your stack, right? What do you have here? All the vendors involved, sort of auditing your supply chain, right? And educate teams. Phishing resistant multi-factor authentication for developer accounts, it's got to be non-negotiable at this point, right? That's a security posture you want to have. Supply chain security has just got to be part of your day-to-day.
I want to pull out a little bit now. Beyond NPM devs, why does this incident matter?
I think it just illustrates as we get these constant reminders every year, whenever something big happens, is, how fragile the software supply chain is and how important it is, right? I keep looping back to Chalk, but like its job is just to colorize text. And so talk about unassuming, right? And it's a stepping stone into financial theft. And you could potentially lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Proves two big points. Phishing and credential theft, still absolutely the easiest way to compromise trusted infrastructure, right? Financially motivated groups are shifting upstream. They target developer tools to reach downstream victims. And that makes sense. The supply chain attack is super juicy. You compromise, a component, a reliance on some people are having, and you move downstream to the end users, and you've got a whole bunch, right? This was billions a week. Crazy. The silver lining, though, is that, and I definitely want to cover this, is it was detected very quickly, all right? They limited the damage. And I will say that this is not kind of a knock, I guess, on the attacker. They could have made so much money, and they hardly made anything at all. So, and it wasn't just that it was detected quickly, but the implementation, like the own that they had, if that makes sense, and what they could have done if somebody who was like super dedicated into monetizing, right? Like some of these attack groups we talk about week in, week out, if they had access to this type of compromise, they would have come out with a whole bunch more. But ultimately, the trajectory is clear. Like supply chain compromises are going to increase in frequency and sophistication. This absolutely will not be the last.
Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, if your teams rely on NPM, like you got to act now, audit, roll back, lock your dependencies. I mean, by the time people hear this, it's already been out a week or so. Even the tiniest utilities can carry a massive risk when compromised. So hopefully you've already heard about it. Hopefully you've done all of this. If you're hearing it now for the first time, or you're like, oh yeah, I didn't check on that, check in on it. All right. And the bigger lesson, SBOMs, software bill of materials. All right. The visibility is just as critical as like patch management now, right? Audit your ingredient list in your stack. Attackers are betting that we are not watching our upstream dependencies closely enough, right? We have to prove them wrong.
Tyler, fantastic. Thank you so much. So, a clear reminder that your smallest dependency can be your biggest risk. Audit, lock down, and stay vigilant. That's it for this week's Reimagining Cyber. I do hope you found it useful. If you have, then there's every chance that someone else in your network will as well. So take the opportunity to tell them about the episode, perhaps on LinkedIn or by word of mouth. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, goodbye.